right, so you see the flag, they flying the American flag upside down. What does that mean? Meaning of the upside down American flag: flying the U.S. flag upside down is traditionally recognized as a signal of distress. It indicates extreme danger to life or property. This practice has historical roots, particularly in maritime contexts, where ships would display an inverted flag when in peril. And the hat that they got on, I found the movement, right? And the flag that they have in the background right there, besides the Confederate flag, which is an obvious tied to Confederacy, right, and slavery. So if you look in the bottom left, their telegram is called Patriot Front, so they have been identified. All right. All right, so yeah, the symbol on their hat is Patriot Front. Reclaim America is a ideology. Basically, it says Americans will fully recognize themselves as a people, right? Not merely citizens or residents of a country, but a people bearing a unique national interest rooted in their heritage on this continent. Their heritage is something of their fathers, all right? So their forefathers. It says our people born to this nation of our European race must reforge themselves as a new collective capable of asserting their right to cultural independence. The life of this nation, unique among all others, will be defended. So you can see, it looked like some K's on the side, and that's reminiscent of the Klan, Ku Klux Klan. All right. Here's an overview. It says Patriot Front is a white nationalist and neo-fascist group based in the United States. It was formed August 2017 after a split from the neo-Nazi organization Vanguard America following the violent Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. All right, the group is led by Thomas Russo, who was a teenager at the time of its founding. All right, so I read the Wikipedia said that Thomas Russo was on a watch list as well since a teen, you know what I'm saying? Like supposedly a FBI watch list for being a troublemaker. All right, again, they go the symbols right there, and then there's Thomas Russo. We're gonna click on the hyperlink, and this is what he looked like right here. So he says in police custody in 2022. Grapevine, Texas, of all places, far-right activist. All right, he's the founder and leader of Patriot Front. All right, so there they are in the Unite the Right rally. All right, part of fascism in the United States and American militias movement. So yeah, see, it's clear. All right, so these are Edomites. Okay, how do we know that they're Edomites? Because they claim their Caucasian European heritage, and they are the Edomites. That's who the Edomites are, Idumea. All right, and they have ties to King Herod the Great. All right, so King Herod comes from the Idumean or Edomite, and their patriarch was Esau. All right, in the Bible. All right, so this is where these people come from, and they came over here as colonizers. All right, colonial history of the United States covers the period of European colonization of North America from the early 16th century until the unifying of the 13 British colonies, all right, and creation of the United States in 1776. You cannot create the United States besides its name. It was already a landmass with inhabitants. Those inhabitants looked somewhat like these people here, and this is an old photo. It says the cover of interview of Somerset with the Pilgrims. All right, an 1853 book depicting Somerset's meeting with pilgrims. So these pilgrims were your colonizers. They came over here and then pretending to be friendly. It says in the Bible that his words were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. So there's a story that I just read about New Amsterdam, which later became New York. It was originally settled by the Dutch, Caucasian Europeans, and then England came over, the YT Europeans, and they pretty much confiscated the land and made a treaty with them. But while the Dutch were here initially, they was stealing land from these guys on the right here. Yeah, right. And these guys are from the 10 tribes of Israel that came over here first, and then Judah and Benjamin came after, which would be the southern kingdom of Judah, you so-called Negroes. But the Native Americans, or American Indians and Mexicans were already over here on the land. You see that? So once again, the so-called white tea man descends from the Edomites. All right. Jeremiah 14:2 says that we are so-called black onto the ground. And Genesis 25:25 says that Esau, was red and hairy all over like a hairy garment. See? That's where the word Edom come from, red. It says, for Esau's Edomites ends the world, and Jacob's Israelites are the beginning of it that follow it. So, these guys are marching and saying, by God, they'll have their home. Okay, where is their home? First, let's get into a little bit of the lineage again. Okay, so Jacob is Israel. So when we say Jake, we talking about Israel. We talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and then you got Esau, which is the progenitor or patriarch of the Edomites. There's two nations in Rebekah's womb under Abraham and Isaac. All right, Abraham was Esau's granddad. Then Isaac came, but the Most High made a division. Right, he created two separate nations. Jacob, which is the so-called Negro, right, Latino and Native American patriarch, and then the so-called white tea man is right here, is the Edomites, later known as Idumea and Cosmonian. I forget what they call, but they are the Khazarian, Illuminati, Luciferians, the Cabal, deep state globalists, and these people, they want their home back. They want America back, which is really not their home because they stole it. Right, but it was all by decree and the will of Yahweh, the Most High Father, whom you ignorantly call God. Right. So let's go to the Bible with these two names, Esau and Jacob. All right, so there's a first reference to Esau, Genesis 25:25, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they call his name Esau. All right, and after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Okay, she is Rebekah. Okay, we're gonna go up to verse 23. It says, and the Lord said unto her, two nations, said to Rebekah, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. All right, so the stronger was Jacob. All right, the weaker was Esau, but Esau sold his birthright. All right, it says in verse 30, Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. I told you he was weak. Therefore was his name called Edom. All right, so red pottage. Esau was red. See all the red associated with him? Red Shield families, the so-called Jays, right, in the world that control the banking system, those are Edomites. Verse 31, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. In verse 31. Verse 32 in the Bible of Genesis chapter 25, and Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? Verse 33, and Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. All right, so we're going to get into Esau's blessing, right, which is a major one, right, from his father Isaac. Genesis 27, verse 39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. So Esau was given the whole earth, right? It says, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, because it's going to come to pass at one point in history, right, that Esau shall break his yoke from off his neck. So Esau definitely was in captivity. You know, he had a yoke on his neck by his brother Jacob. Okay, because you got to look at the so-called black nobility, the so-called Moorish. They were in rulership in Europa. You know, after the Japhites at some point. But make a long story short, you know, Esau, he lived by the sword, which is weaponry. So that's very symbolic because to this day, Esau controls the earth, right? He controls the manufacture of weapons, you know, from those old times till now. So Esau lived by the sword. What does the Bible say about the sword? Here we are in Revelation 13, verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity, which Esau has managed to do, shall go into captivity. So he's going to go into captivity at a point. It says, he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Okay? Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And who are the saints? All right, so we know Jacob wrestled with the angel of the Lord, right, and prevailed. And so his descendants are the saints, the Israelites, because Jacob became named Israel. It says in Psalms 147 verse 19, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. Right. So when the law came down, who was it given to? That's right, Moses. Moses, right? It says in verse 20, he hath not dealt so. So this is the Most High God of Israel, Yahweh, okay? He hath not dealt so with any nation, including, he had not dealt with the Edomites, none of the Ishmaelites, the Arab nations, none of them. He said he hath not dealt so with any nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them, right? So they have not known the judgments of Yahweh, all right? Praise ye Yahweh, okay? So the saints are the Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Your arch nemesis or rival in this earth is Esau, the Edomites, the wicked. Job 9 and 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, you see that? It says, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Okay. I like to use etymology. So let's see. Let's look up the word wicked real quick. All right. Extended from earlier, wick, bad, wicked, false. Okay, which apparently is a adjectival use of the Old English Wicca, wizard, right, witch, formed as if a past participle, but there is no corresponding verb for evolution. Compare wretched or wretch. All right, so you know, a magician, sorceress, under witch. All right, so you know, Old English Wicca, wizard. All right, wizard, one who practices magic, a sorcerer or magician, a skilled or clever person, a sage, a wise man, sage, one devoted to the black art, a magician, a conjurer, a sorcerer, an enchanter. All right, the Bible is clear and makes clear reference to enchantment. All right, Isaiah 47, verse 12. Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so, be thou shalt be able to profit. If so, be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Okay, behold, they shall be as stubble, right? The fire shall burn them. So they talking about, by God they'll have their home. It says the fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee, with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter. None shall save thee. And that's referring the daughter of Babylon. All right, Babylon. Right. It says, "Come," in verse 1. "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." All right. All right, so here's an ancient depiction of the Chaldeans. See that? Got those big noses. Yeah. All right. You got another depiction of the Chaldeans. All right. The Syrians. And does it look like what? Roman centurion Trojan helmets or whatever? You see it? Psalms 2, beginning at the top. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. So they want to separate themselves, right? And cast their cords from us. It says in verse 4, he that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord our power, Yahweh, shall have them in derision. Ridicule, mockery, subjection to ridicule or mockery. All right. A laughing to scorn, mockery. You see that? And that's what's happening right now, right? They're imagining a vain thing. Talking about by God, they'll have their home. That's crazy talk. Yeah, like I say, yeah, you're going to have your home, but it's going to be in that lake of fire, man. Romans 9:13. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And these are the words of the Heavenly Father. You see that? Yeah, the word of the Lord, man. In verse 4 of the same chapter in Romans, the book of Romans, who are Israelites, to whom it says, for I wish that myself were accursed from Mashiach for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are the Israelites, according to the flesh, who are the Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, right, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of Yahweh power, and the promises, who are the fathers, and of whom are concerning the flesh Hamashiach came, who is over all Yahweh blessed forever. Amen. So the Most High of the Bible that you're reading, you know, that you often misinterpret. When I say you, I mean the world, you know, because this world is given into the hand of the wicked. So, you know, these words in this Bible are for a specific people called the Israelites, none other, not the Edomites. And we've already proven who the Edomites are, right? They are the heathen, the wicked, you know, that the earth is given to as a consolation prize. So yeah, enjoy this earth while you can, but know that your time is short because you don't understand these scriptures. You don't understand the breakdown of these scriptures. So yeah, you are imagining a vain thing, thinking that you're gonna rule forever. You shall be a lady forever. That's false. Y'all fight each other over here, and it's vain. It's vanity, man. It's fleeting. You know, it's something that you will never be able to accomplish, because the Most High has already written His will, you know, for you, and His will for you came through Isaac. And Isaac basically said you gonna get the fat of the earth, because you didn't get the primary blessing, which is the kingdom of heaven. You know. So you got the earth, you know what I'm saying? So, like I say, you know, your time is short, you know, and we know you the devil. Israelites, you know, Israelites, especially Israelites that's in the truth, because 2/3 part of Israel is going to be destroyed, man, because they worship Esau, Edom, in his system, and they want this place to continue on. So, you know, you're gonna go into the lake of fire with them. But it says in Revelation chapter 12, verse 12, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, right, the kingdom of heaven, and ye that dwell in them. All right, but woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. That's the dragon, that's the beast, right? Revelation 13:11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon. What do you think draconian laws are? Draconian measures, right? You go to etymology on draconian. of or pertaining to Draco, the dragon, the ancient Greek statesman. Greek statesman. You see that? Greece, Rome, the Edomites, that's their kingdom. It says in reference to laws, rigorous, extremely severe or harsh. Okay, we just heard Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump address those military generals in Quantico. Okay, it says Draco is the Latinized form of Greek Dracon, name of the Archon of Athens. Right? You heard Peter, whatever that guy who wrote the agenda for Donald Trump. He talked about they hail from Athens and all this. It says who laid down a code of laws for Athens, all right, that mandated death as punishment for minor crimes. His name seems to mean literally sharp-sighted. See, dragon. All right, a fabulous animal common to the conceptions of many races and people, right? From Old English dragon and directly from Latin draconem, huge serpent, dragon, all right? It's a snake. That's why the Lord Yahweh Shai, whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus, told us to be as wise as serpents, right? But as gentle as doves. See? So yeah, these dragons, these serpents, these devils, these antichrists, these anti-Hamashiachs hate us. They do. They rage and imagine a vain thing, wearing these coverings of their face. Now, if they was forthcoming, if they was upright in their heart, if they was doing something that was righteous, something that was right in the eyes of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, they would not be covering their faces. They're trying to hide, right? Why would you have to hide? Because you're doing something wrong. Same with these ICE agents and all these other three-letter agencies, But I digress. I'm going to go to the scriptures. Those men there, they believe in the beast system, all right? Because that's where they were born of, the beast system. These are seeds of Esau, all right? Esau, Edom. These are Edomites, all right? Pretending to be so-called white people. Why would you call yourself white when you know that you're Edomite? You're Idumean, right? Why would you want to change your identity? And also, why would you want to change the identity of the indigenous peoples of this land and in the Southern Kingdom? Why would you call us so-called black? Why would you call us so-called African American? Because you want to cover up the history. You cannot hide the history. The men of the Lord are set up in these last days to witness against Idumea, spiritual Sodom in Egypt, which this place has become, right? All the debauchery that happens here, all the hate crimes that happen here in America. Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, man. Like I say, they love this beast system because this beast system, they're losing control of because they're divided against themselves. All right. We're going to go back to Revelation 13 and we're going to begin at 15, right? We're talking about Satan, and his beast system. All right. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, which is ancient Rome. So if you look at Washington, D.C., it mirrors the architecture of ancient Rome. So, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Just like Nebuchadnezzar back in ancient Babylon, right? So if you don't worship the image or the facade of the face of the beast, which is basically ancient Rome, this is Rome 2.0 over here. If you don't worship that, if you don't bow down to their draconian laws, measures, and policies, then guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna get expedited up out of here. You know what I mean? Exit stage left. You know what I'm saying? Actually, for us, in the true men of the Lord, in the Israelites' case, the 1/3 part, we're gonna exit stage right. We're gonna come into our kingdom, and when we do, the Edomites, they going into captivity. I promise you. It says, verse 16, and he causeth all, both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, right, in their right hand or in their foreheads. So that mark goes into charagma, right, or stigma. Stigma is it means to prick, right, to inject. Okay, so that mark, they're going to inject that mark, and it's going to be the mark of the beast. Okay, verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he, that means except he that had the mark. So if you take the mark, then you're going to be able to buy and sell, all right, or the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right, so this mark of the beast looks like this. All right, so they're going X-ray, the Bible, Revelation 13, 16 through 17, mark of the beast. You know, that's the devil's mark, Satan's mark. Okay, now if you look at what's going on in the UK, the United Kingdom, these Caucasian Europeans are over there, the so-called YT man. Yeah, he's pushing a digital ID right now. And they also pushing the great financial reset. So you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade unless you have the mark of the beast, which would be initially, the RFID implantable microchip. But they're really pushing this digital ID right now because they're gonna roll this out. It's like the size of the grain of rice, and they're gonna put it in people's hands or in their foreheads. It'll be scanned, All right, so the true men of the Lord, the prophets that set up in these latter days, these end times, we know that we coming into, the tribulation period, which is the period we were just speaking of, wars and things of that nature. So I'm going to finish up in Revelation 14. I'm going to begin at 2. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, and I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. So this is beautiful music, right? And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Okay, so the 144,000 are the hopeful elect men of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, the saints, the Israelites. Okay, 12,000 men of each of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? So these are the descendants of Israel, right? The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and even some of you who look like the other nations, but you go back to the patriarchs, all right, the 12 patriarchs. It says in verse 4, these are they which were not defiled with women, which means the doctrine of the matriarchal order. Okay, so America got the Statue of Liberty. They worship the Queen of Heaven, worship and all that. All these are false doctrines. So we don't worship. We're not defiled with that ideology any longer. We used to be probably when we were in the world, but coming into this truth, and being enlightened, by the truth, of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, right, and the prophecies, then we know better. Okay, for they are virgins, for we are virgins. Okay, these are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Okay, who's the Lamb? Right, Yahweh Shai, who made that great sacrifice in order to bring us back into the sheepfold, of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, in the kingdom of heaven. So yeah, we follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, right? Being the first fruits unto Yahweh power, and to the Lamb Yahweh Shai, okay? And verse 5, and in their mouth was found no guile, no deceit, for they are without fault before the throne of power Yahweh. All right, so with that being said, you get up, face the east. Call Halayim La Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakah HaKodash. All right, I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well, right? Preaching on the highways and hedges in truth and sincerity, risking their life and freedom to do so. All right, to the next one, to the hopeful elect and the 1/3 part of Israel. Shalom, shalom.